Alrighty, so today we have the new LR teaser, which is very, very interesting because I had wholeheartedly assumed that they were gonna go with like all of the sins first and then move on to other characters and stuff, maybe commandments, whatever. But we have we have a white feather as the as the teaser. And so that pretty much only leads to one thing, which is goddesses. So I'm not 100% sure. We do have a decent amount of goddesses in the game. Some of them are pretty old, so they could obviously get LRs. I think you can pretty much rule out any of the Elizabeths because we just got LR Elizabeth. I don't think that they would plan on doing two in a row. That would be huge and stupid. So I think realistically, my best guess is going to be Red Elat. And I know that sounds weird because who cares about Elat? But Elat actually has a pretty interesting setup. She has a detonate card, which isn't the greatest or anything, but it can do some okay damage. And then she has this card, which is decreases crit resistance and crit defense. The only problem I could see this being is if she's more PvP oriented, which this Elat already works in all game modes. If you're going up against a bunch of other Mael teams and stuff like that, goddesses in general, if Mael is on the team, which he definitely will be if this character is PvP related, then you can't stat lower goddess race. So I don't know if it's going to end up being like, depending on how good the character is, of course. Like LR Escanor, for example, is really good. He didn't necessarily take over the meta. Like, you don't only see human teams or anything like that now that he's out, which he's a little bit dated at this point. He was not the most recent, but the one before that. So, I mean, maybe people have kind of moved on a little bit. But I do see him a lot in Chaos PvP. So I guess it just depends on, like, different, ranks and stuff like that, obviously. But, yeah, she could be a pretty interesting character. She does have debuff immunity and everything on her ultimate. She increases defense-related stats, which is kind of cool. Just makes you really tanky and everything. Her passive is increases allies' crit damage by 5%. And I think that that's kind of cool. I mean, obviously, Mael has a spike card. It does double crit damage. So if they maybe lower the limit on this to where it's like 10%, up to 5 times, so that way it shortens it, and then they add some more stuff to it. I could definitely see you spamming a couple of her cards at the very beginning of the match, use that Mael AoE, which has Spike, do a ton of damage, because it already does a lot. I don't know that they would be changing, Holy Relics or anything like that. Obviously, LR Escanor already had his, so probably not. But I think that she's probably the most likely candidate. I don't know. Then again, I assumed that they were going to go for Sins, and that is obviously not the case. They could go for like old school Red Sariel. We could get like an old school Blue Tarmiel. It would be very cool, honestly, to see Tarmiel get it, just because everybody uses Red Tarmiel now instead of Blue. I assume they would not be changing the graces or anything like that. I would assume that they were just going to mess with the actual character cards and passive. So could be something kind of interesting there. They did just come out with Green Hawk and Oslo, which is very weird, and he improves defense. So if that's sort of any sort of like foreshadowing, if you don't know, his ultimate actually does scale off of his defense stat, which is pretty cool. He could be a decent third for the Nalfami team. Not that, they should... it's a weird thing. The defense team is really, really cool. I wish they would come out with support for it. But at the same time, it's hard for them to support such an exclusive team because those characters are collab units and everything. So if they come out with it, a majority of the player base isn't going to be able to use it. So there's always that kind of like weird thing. I also seen, I think it was Beats' thumbnail that I saw this morning that even let me know that the teaser was out. But Blue Ludociel, I think is like a really cool option, but also like almost like a worst case scenario, just because if you don't know, if you out CC the enemy, you lower their defense related stats by 40%, which is quite insane. And if he gets an LR, I can only assume he'll be hitting 70 plus K CC if I throw my CC food or CC gear on him. Yeah, he's already at 67. He would be hitting like high, maybe like mid to high 70 Ks if he got an LR at this point, which would be just outrageous. Like, you would pretty much guarantee you know, out CCing everybody with this character, and then that's just a huge defense cut to every team in the game, basically. So, although it could be very cool to get this character because you could maybe use some older units and actually still get some really good performance out of them, like with, you know, less defense-related stats, but the whales are going to benefit the most from this one. So, obviously, like every LR that's come out so far, if you have them 6/6 and everything like that, you benefit more, of course. That's not super uncommon for any character in the game, but very, very interesting thought at the very least. I highly doubt it would be any of the newer ones. I can't really see Margaret getting one because she's a festival. I mean, LR Lost Vein is a thing, so I mean, I guess it's not necessarily off the table, but it would seem really weird for them to jump from these really old units all the way to Margaret, for example. You know, Summer Margaret's way too new. She's Nidhogg exclusive. I guess they could maybe go for Red Tarmiel, Green Sariel. Highly doubt it. Blue or Green Ludociel is also very new. Don't think it'll happen. None of the Danafor Lizzes have angel wings, so I don't think that that's really a good guess, to be honest with you. That's basically it. Like, those are really the only 4 options you have. It's either going to be Red Sariel, I think, Blue Tarmiel, maybe Blue Ludociel, or like Red Elat. I think Elat's probably the most likely, just because she doesn't have a Grace. She could actually be a decent unit when boosted. But I guess we'll just have to see, man. It really threw me off because I assumed that they were going through this pattern of like, hey, we've done a Lost Vein, we've done an Escanor, and the Liz did throw me off a little bit, but a lot of the times they kind of throw Liz in as like an honorary Sins member because obviously her and Meliodas go hand in hand. So it's like a weird thing. I figured that they were going to try to go through more of the Sins first, and it is actually, I guess it's not that bad because Angels do need the support. Really would have loved to have seen any sort of giant support that could have possibly brought Aaron back into the meta a little bit. We could have gotten fairy support, which fairies are pretty much dead in the water right now. And Elaine, this new green Elaine, so good, so much fun. But you can't utilize her too much because there's no other good fairies to run with her at the moment. Obviously, like Chaos PvP is a whole different scenario, so that's, you know, not really worth mentioning with this. But I don't know. I guess I'm happy that Goddesses are probably getting it, and that means that we should hopefully be getting some good support for it. I can only imagine they'll do something at the very worst, like Liz, where she has a PvP and a PvE passive. I said those backwards, but she has a part that only works in PvE, and then another part that works in all game modes, which I think is pretty cool. I'm very glad that they didn't lock her down to one. She has like something good for both styles of players, which is cool. I imagine they'll try to go more like broad scale if they do Elat maybe, but yeah, I don't know. It's a very weird teaser, I have to say, but I'm interested at the very least. I have 70 coins at the moment, so it's going to take me at least 2 weeks of Heroes Arena when it comes back around for me to even get the character, but I'm sure we'll probably mess around with it on Golem's account or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. Let me know who you think it could be, because I'm very intrigued. I think either of those 4 characters could probably be your best bet. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see who it is nonetheless. I do like LRs. I think it's a very cool concept. I don't like how grindy it is, of course, but that's kind of just the nature of the way that they've made it. So unfortunate, but either way, still excited. So thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.